Hello, this is Mad Cat, and doing another shelter tips. And this one, it kind of seems obvious, but I think it needs to be said. Um, I, you need to have a plan when you're in the shelter. You know, one of the difficult things I'm having right now is I'm getting very little sleep, and even my friend Felipe, he's getting very little sleep. Is that a Google car? Sorry, it's just a car with a weird antenna on top of it. I've only seen that for like Google cars, so. Um, so yeah, you need to have a plan. You need to have, some sort of idea of what you're going to be doing. I mean, say like this shelter here, Sunday breakfast. I don't know why they call it Sunday breakfast since it's a 24/7 shelter, but you can only stay here for 30 days. So, I mean, yeah, you might get like 2 to 3 weeks where you relax, but then you're going to be like rushing. What am I going to do for the next 30 days? Because you can stay here again, but you have to wait 30 days, and then you can stay there another 30 days, and it's kind of a repeat like that. Now, you can get an extension, like for a couple of days. I've heard some as much as 2 weeks, although I think one person got 30-day extension. But odds are you're only going to get a few days on average. So it's like the moment you get here, you need to start planning what's your next move. What are you going to do after that 30 days? Now, for me, I'm not actually staying the full 30 days. I'm going to be leaving at the end of the month, and I'm going to Detroit. But then I'm going to a shelter once I get to Detroit. And I've already made plans for that. Now, it's a walk-in shelter. It's not something I can arrange. But I know precisely where I'm going once I hit Detroit. So, but even then, it's probably going to be a 30-day shelter, so I have a backup shelter to go to after that. Now, my hope is that after that second shelter, I'll be off the streets. Maybe, maybe not. So when I hit that second shelter, I'm going to start planning a backup plan just in case. And maybe I'll just go back to the first shelter and stay there for 30 days. But of course, my plan is that I'm going to be living with someone, but I still need a plan on how to make money. Because, I don't want it to be like they're paying for me. I want to ensure that I don't go back on the streets, or if I do run into that situation, I have some sort of plan. But, my current problem right now is I can't really work a job because of my disability. Even doing this ghostwriting thing has proven to be difficult for me. And writing is one of the easiest things there is for me, and even that takes a lot out of me, which might explain some of my being tired, but it's mostly because I'm just not getting a lot of sleep. A lot of other people, like Felipe is wanting to take online classes. He wants to get some sort of degree, probably in business. But, he also wants to do writing like I do. Although I've tried to tell him there's really not a lot of money in it. But he has a plan. He's moving forward. There are services available to help you get a job. There are services available that will even help you get a place to live, like assisted living centers. So there are all sorts of options to have. You just got to really go out there and look for them. Ask people for help. Like I said, there's always something going on. There's always, other churches, other centers that are doing things. So you've got to really go out there and find it. And that's the most important thing is I can only really speak for Philadelphia, but I imagine many places are like this. that there are options out there for you depending on what your situation is. But at worst, you have to at least plan what's the next shelter you're going to be staying at. What is the next place you're going to go? But if you seriously want to get back off the streets once you're on them, you really got to have a more long-term plan. Okay, maybe you stay at a couple of shelters, but that's your short-term plan. What's going to be your long-term plan? Are you going to get a job? Are you going to get an apartment? Are you going to try to find a way to get off the streets? But it looks like a lot of people really just don't plan that far ahead. They just kind of go shelter to shelter to shelter. And, I've met some people who've been in shelters for a number of years, traveling across states. And if that's what they want, that's what they want. But, you've got to keep going out there and making a plan. And maybe not all your plans come through, but at least you're making a plan. At least you have a goal. At least you're trying to do something. And I'm trying to, despite my limitations, I'm working for a ghostwriting company to try to get some money and try to save up a little bit. But, staying in a shelter is not that great. And I'll tell you that. I mean, even though, well, with my situation, it was like at first, I was very paranoid about people stealing my shit or, well, that's basically it. But, some of these people have been to prison. So I'm always leery that, I'll say the wrong thing by accident and someone's going to want to beat me up. And I'm a smart ass, so, that's very possible. So I was always I'm still kind of cautious about that. I'm very scared that that's something that will happen, but my sleeping arrangement changed to where I don't have to be so paranoid with my stuff. I am a little bit, but not as much. But then I'm just not getting that much sleep. I'm having to wait 90 minutes more just to get to my bed, and then I have to wake up 90 minutes earlier in the morning than compared to everyone else. So I'm losing 3 hours right there of sleep. And then it takes me a while to actually go to sleep. So I'm not getting a lot of good sleep. I don't want to be in the shelter. I really don't. So that's why I'm trying to have a plan to get myself off the streets. And maybe I have to stay at a couple of shelters, but my end goal is to get off the streets for good, to never come back here. So, if you haven't been in a shelter yet, or if you are in a shelter now, you got to make yourself a plan. There's nothing wrong with having a short-term plan, but definitely have a long-term plan. Have some idea where you're going to be going once your time at the shelter is done. Now, you might get lucky and you might get into a shelter that will take you for 3 months' time or for a year. Those shelters are available, and that's fine. Again, I see that as a short-term plan. For 3 months, you basically get 1 or 2 months where you don't really have to think about things, but I still would. For a year plan, you get so much more time, but I would still be thinking about your long-term plan, and don't just push it off like, I'll decide when I get there. No, you need to start right away. And, I kind of started planning even before I was in a shelter. And I'm glad that, I still have that plan in place, but, it's hard. It's hard living in a shelter. And anyone who tells you that being in a shelter is easy is full of it. Anyways, that's going to do it for me today. I'm spacing out right now. I'd go to the library, but my friend Felipe, he's off doing something else, and if I stay in the library, I'm just going to fall asleep, and they really don't like it when you do that sort of thing. I took an energy drink, which is kind of helping a little bit, but I just want to crash right now. And of course, being in the middle of public, they also don't like it when you do that. And I can't exactly go back to the shelter to fall asleep, so I'm kind of SOL right now. I just got to, wow, she's hot. Ew, God, she is so yummy. Sorry. I'm just SOL right now. I can't sleep. I'm just going to have to endure this for a couple more weeks. Go to Detroit and probably endure it there. In fact, the only time I'll probably get any sleep is when I go on the Greyhound bus to Detroit. Anyways, check out my GoFundMe, GoFundMe.com Stay Off Streets. I'm still collecting money for that. I also have a Patreon, patreon.com/mad_cat. Number of people are paying me on a month-to-month basis. The thing with GoFundMe is I'll get that money right away, where Patreon I'll get that month-to-month. However, you also have the option of using my PayPal account, paypal.me/madcatprime. Sorry, there's just like a lot of beautiful women walking back and forth. If you're not comfortable doing any of that, but you still want to help me out, consider buying my book, Character Astrology Profiles. It's only $2.99. The more people who buy it, the more it'll improve the rankings on various websites. As it stands, it's under 500,000th place in the Kindle paid section. And that might sound a lot, but considering when my book first started, it was in like the 3 millionth place. So being in the top 500,000th, that's an achievement right there. But the more people buy it, the better I do. More other writers will stumble upon my book and like, oh, this is a great idea for a book. I'll buy it, download it, and read it, give it a review, give it 5 stars. I just need some people buying it first to get me high enough to where other writers will accidentally see it. So buying that book will help me out a lot. Anywho, that's going to do it for me today. This is Mad Cat signing out.